Sorry about that. I thought I was recording the screen, but I wasn't. Okay, what I was saying is we've had a crazy last 5 days. When we heard that America had bombed Iran, I'm sure that kind of made you kind of stop what you were doing and say, oh my God, why? What is going on? But I just wanted to backtrack a little bit because it has been a crazy 5 days. But on June 15th, there was some footage of Iran bombing the Diamond District in Israel. So I'm going to play a little bit of footage for that for you really quickly. Um, Guys, hit that like button, share, subscribe. This is the food channel. I got some banana chips, so go and get yourself some snacks while we start. Okay? I'm going to share my screen. I had to start this over because I didn't share my screen. Sorry about that. All right, let's go. This is June 19th.
وين انت شايف؟ ايوه يضرب يخطف يطلع طلع روح شوفيه مش راح نقدر نشرب احنا اذا هي كمان واحد يا الله الصوت ضرب ضرب الارض طلع
There's like 9 to 10 missiles being shot from Iran to Israel, and that happened on June 19th into the Diamond District. I think there was a total of 433 casualties. I don't know if that was Israel or Iran. And like 3,000 people were injured.
والله شو بخوف
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
يا الله لك زيت هي يضربوا يا روح يا هلا عفو الله ورجع ولا مسمناش عندي يا الله يا الله يا عفو الله وين اجى يا الله يا شباب وين اجى جبنا بالضبط يا الله اسمع يلا بنروح مشان الله.
Okay, so you guys can see what that. So that was June 19th. So that was like 5 days ago on social media that Iran was bombing Israel. Then the next thing you know, Donald Trump, 47, he goes on his Twitter, his X account, and this is what we read, right? This is what we see right here. We have completed a very successful attack on 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordow, Nazan, and Ifstan. All planes were now outside of Iran airspace. A full payload of bombs were dropped as a primary site for load. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to the great American warriors. There's not another military in the world that could have done this. Now it's time for peace. Thank you for your attention. Very short and abrupt and to the matter. Yeah, we did it, like it, no like it. He didn't get any congressional approval, but there were like, I think about 12 or 15 other presidents that have bombed other countries without congressional approval. So I'm not going to say he's the first one, but I think it was a little, surprising for a lot of people. Then, he made his announcement. Went on to make his announcement. Just like short and sweet. Let me see. It was like 2 minutes. Oh, it's not loading. It's June 21st to 22nd. U.S. bomb dropped Iran's nuclear sites, crippled nuclear enrichment capacity, partial damage, program setback, not total destruction. Retaliatory fire and fragile ceasefire followed. Let's see what he said. Unconditional surrender. We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He's an easy target, but he's safe there. We are not going to unalive him, at least not for now. But we don't want missile shots to at civilians, and America's shoulders are patient and thin. So, okay, so Iran was bombing Israel's Diamond District. Then Trump goes and drops 3 bombs. U.S. did not destroy Iran's nuclear program. Here are some of the pictures of before and after. It says U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear facility did not destroy the country's nuclear program and probably only set it back a few months, according to early Pentagon intelligence assessment attack. But on his speech, he said he did get rid of up to over the 60% of enrichment of uranium. But now the Pentagon is saying that's not true and probably only set it back a couple of months, according to early Pentagon intelligence assessment of the attack. The Islamic Republic's stockpile of enrichment uranium was not eliminated in the bombing, sources familiar in the evaluation of Defense Intelligence Agency told by the BBC U.S. Partner, CBS. The White House said the initial damage assessment was flat out wrong on a clear attempt to deem President Donald Trump. The president said that on Saturday's airstrikes completely and totally obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities. The U.S. struck 3 nuclear facilities in Iran, Fordow, Nazan, Afghanistan with a bunker buster. Bombs capable of penetrating 60 feet into a. I heard that they were saying that the nuclear centrifuges were half a mile underground, but when the bombs hit, it only hit the surface, even though he alleged he destroyed everything, which was not true. I feel like he says when he ran on his election, 47 said we're not going to go to war. That was not true. Then he told Iran, I'm going to give you 2 weeks. That was not true. Then he tells us that he bombed and took care of everything. That was not true. Then he's saying that, I don't know, this is like manipulation, saying, oh, that the military did an awesome job. How do we know it wasn't done remote control? We don't know. But sources familiar to the Pentagon's intelligence assessment says Iran's centrifuges are largely intact and impact was limited to above ground structures. So he only hit like the entrance and the exit, but none of the structures underground. They are smart. They were smart to build it underground. They're not stupid. And just and then we didn't have any boots on the ground. He didn't have any boots on the ground to go in and look at anything. The entrances of the 2 nuclear facilities were sealed off and some infrastructures were destroyed and damaged, but much of the facilities, which are deep underground, were intact. The anonymous sources told U.S. media it is estimated the attack only set Iran back a few months, and that a reassumption of its nuclear program may be based on how long it takes the country to dig out and make repairs. Depending if China or Russia is going to help them. Sources also confirmed CBS that some of Iran's enrichment uranium stockpile was moved before the strikes, according to. So, what was he running his mouth? And they knew that a strike was going to come. So, maybe 47 was like bullying them or tweeting. You see his tweet saying, "We're going to do this, we're going to do that," making threats. So they moved some of their stockpile. Maybe that got tipped off. They had 30 pounds of massive ordnance penetrator bomb was thought to be only weapon capable of destroying Iran's underground nuclear enrichment facilities. In the hours followed by the Saturday strike, Chairman of Joint Chiefs Staff told reporters that it would take time to assess the damage that was done to the facilities. But he added that all 3 sites sustained extremely severe damage and destruction. Satellite images showed 6 fresh craters, clusters, and 2 entry points at the Fordow nuclear site, as well as the great dust debris. It's unclear if the images, however, how much damage the site sustained below on the surface. The deputy political director of Iran's state broadcaster claimed that the 3 sites targeted by the U.S. had been evacuated a while ago, and that Iran didn't suffer a major blow because the materials had already been taken out. U.S. officials, on the other hand, hailed the mission as a success, as have Israel officials. In a statement on Tuesday, Secretary of Defense Based on everything we have seen, and I've seen it all, our bombing campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons. Anyone who says the bombs were not devastated is just trying to undermine the president and the successful mission. Prime Minister of Benjamin Netanyahu said on Tuesday that since hostilities with Iran began on June 13th, okay, so started on 13th, Israel has been successful in curbing Iran's nuclear ambitions as well as destroying its missiles arsenal. We have removed two immediate existing threats to U.S. the threat of nuclear and annihilation, the threat of annihilation by 2,000 ballistic missiles. Netanyahu said in a video remarked as issues by his office. The report of Saudi news outlet citing unnamed Israel source said that Israel believes that most of Iran's enrichment uranium is buried under the rubble. U.S. has more than a dozen intelligence agencies which can produce conflicting reports based on their mission and area expertise. For example, the origins of the coronavirus remains a debate topic among the intelligence community. Said the damage of Iran sustained by the U.S. attacks, which mean will take significant time investment for the energy for the restored nuclear program. In a post by X, Albert also stated Iran is under intense scrutiny for observation of the United States and Israel for its risk of future attacks if it tries to rebuild. So we threatening, okay, go and rebuild again. We're going to bomb you again. On Monday, Iran had retaliated against the U.S. airstrikes by launching missile attacks on it. Yeah, they tried to bomb Qatar and Iraq, but the defense, they blocked it, which the home of thousands of U.S. troops. The attack was largely intercepted. No casualties and injuries were reported. Thank God. Since Iran's retaliation, 47 has been urging Israel and Iran to agree to a ceasefire. Both nations are violating the data 6,000. Okay, hold up. So from June 13th, Israel and Iran are bombing each other. I think they baited. I think Israel baited 47. Was like, come on, come on, come on. America's great. America's strong. You got the largest and the strongest military. Get rid of them. Israel didn't have the power to get rid of Iran's nuclear weapons. They told 47, you take care of it for us. Our taxpayers' money, our money, like we don't have enough stuff to worry about with our money. And that we'll call a ceasefire. Then he comes on there and says we have a ceasefire, and we don't have no ceasefire. So what is going on? Make it make sense. They said there is no ceasefire. I'm gonna read it right here. Iran foreign minister, no final ceasefire agreement. If Israel stops, we'll stop. Iran's foreign minister says that Tehran will stop attacks if Israel stops the airstrike by 4 a.m. local time. The comment from the foreign minister makes official mark U.S. Donald Trump's claimed ceasefire between Iran and Israel. They were supposed to have a ceasefire by 4 a.m. yesterday. As of now, there was no agreement. So he went and said that 47 went and told us, I'm not going to go to war. He went to war. He told Iran he had 2 weeks before he was going to bomb. He didn't do it in 2 weeks. He did the elephant and surprise and he did it in 2 days. Then he said it was a successful mission. It's not a successful mission. Then he said there was a ceasefire and there's no ceasefire. So what is going on? Make it make sense. You get me all kind of confused because every time you say one thing, you do something else. When you say go right, you go left. When you say yes, you mean no. When you say up, you mean down. So how are we supposed to understand what is going on? As of now, there's no agreement, any ceasefire or cease of military operations. However, provided that Israel regime stop its illegal aggression against Iran, people no later than 4 a.m. Tehran, we have no intervention to continue response afterwards. The final decision of cease on military operations will be made later. Military operations of our powerful armed forces to punish Israel for its aggression continued until the very last minute, 4 a.m. Together with all Iranians, I thank our brave armed forces who remain ready to defend and dare our country until the last drop of blood. So you're going to send our kids out there to war for something that doesn't exist. and then you failed your mission. Do you know how embarrassing that is? You're supposed to be the United States, the biggest, the strongest, the richest, the most powerful. We are so braggadocious. We're a hypocrite that we're better than everybody else. And then you go out there and then you miss. And he was pissed. Then he gets on Instagram today and he starts cursing out Israel. Did you hear this? Guys,
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
guys, yo, he lost it. 47 lost. It's not funny. It's not funny because this man is just who. It was crazy the first time around, and then he didn't make it the second time. And I think he just has all this of frustration. He's upset, retaliation. Getting back at everyone who was trying to lock him up. Now he goes without any approval over international waters, violates war crimes, doesn't ask for any congressional approval. Boom, just drops the bombs, acts like, oh, I did a good job, that I took care of everything, which he did not. That it was successful, which it was not. And then he gonna brag, oh, we got a ceasefire, which we did not. Guys, if you don't have a headache right now, is it just me? Do I care too much? Am I reading too much? Do I have a headache? Are you guys not watching the news? Is this not because this is not no joke? I don't know. I was in Manhattan with 9/11. I don't know where you guys with 9/11, and I'm not here to get into politics and talk about anybody's opinion about who was right, who was wrong. But we do know one thing: we do have something called sleeper cells here. We have domestic and foreign terrorists here that will rise up by things like this. We will get put on high alert. I heard New York, LA, they're already, everyone's on high alert. I heard they have police on the train station and everything, already on top of ice with the immigration problem, okay? With the deportation problem. And now you want to possibly get us into what? World War III? With what money? We are in debt. We are in debt to China. China says, I want my money today. We have to pay up. We have to pay up. What are we going to tell China? We ain't got the money? Then what? They're already buying all the land everywhere. They're buying land in Africa, Jamaica, everywhere. My last live, when I talked about the GDP, America has 39 trillion GDP, where China has 17 million GDP. That's telling who the leader is. Remember, we talked about the G7 versus the Brics. As of last year, the United States owes China, we owe China $900 billion. This amount represents part of the U.S. national debt, which is over 34 trillion. China is the second largest foreign holder of U.S. debt after Japan. U.S. debt to China has been decreasing in recent years since 2011. It peaked over 1.3 trillion. The U.S. borrowing and by issuing treasury bonds, which China buys as part of the foreign exchange reserves. So I'm reading this because, like, do we have money now to go fight with China? Our taxpayers' money? Do we have that? As of right there now, there's no official war between Iran and Israel, but they have been in a state of escalating hostility and shadow conflict for over 4 decades, since 1979, the Iranian Revolution. In 1979, after the Islamic Revolution, Iran cut ties with Israel and began supporting anti-Israel groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza. Iran calls for the destruction of Israel, while Israel sees Iran as its top regional threat. In 2000, there was nuclear tension rise. Israel strongly opposed Iran's nuclear program, believing Iran's aims to develop nuclear weapons. Iran is suspected of cyber attacks, covert assassinations, and Iranian scientists and bombing Iranian assets in Syria. 2011 presents the Syrian civil war. Iran sends troops to the militias to support Assad regime. Israel begins regular airstrikes in Syria to prevent Iran from enriching military near Israel's borders. In 2020, escalation and proximity attacks. Tensions have grown with decreased drone and missile attacks from Iranian proximities. In 2023-2024, conflict future escalates amid regional instability. As of April 2024, Iran launched a direct missile and drone attack on Israel. Its first openly direct attack. It's not good, guys. I don't like war. I don't like any kind of war. Nope. And if this escalates, which I mean, it has escalated. It's not if. I mean, this thing's gonna go on like maybe 10 years, a decade, maybe longer. Let me share my screen again. Share my screen.
من هدف مشروع ایران هستند. آمریکا با این اقدامی که انجام داد علیه ایران و حریم هوایی ایران را شکست و جنایت علیه ایران انجام داد، دیگه جایی در منطقه غرب آسیا ندارد.
So Iranian news is saying that we violated their airspace and that the U.S. started it and they're going to finish it. That's basically what they're saying. And there is no peace. There's no kind of peace agreement in place right now. There's no peace agreement, even though 47 said the opposite. This guy always saying the opposite. Can't keep up. Let's see where we're at today. Let's see.
Told you that Saddam had chemical weapons, that Gaddafi was a madman, that Assad gassed his people. Now they're telling you that Iran is nuking up. Well, they didn't tell you that Saddam was dumping the dollar, that Gaddafi dreamt of a gold-backed Pan-African dinar, that Assad switched to budgeting in Europe.
African currency. So they're saying that Saddam was backing African currency. Because remember, they were saying Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, and we have to go in there. Okay, so let's read this. When they said Sudan had weapons of mass destruction, it says Sudan changes banknotes, boosting offers but not drawing criticism. Sudanese government introduced new banknotes to keep on account. Okay, no. That's a different article, guys. Sorry.
euros. And that Iran?
We've got Hezbollah being funded by Iran. Correct.
Correct.
We have Hamas being funded by Iran.
Correct.
We have the Houthis being funded by Iran.
Correct.
Correct. We've got all the militias in Iraq.
So they're saying all the war in the Middle East is being funded by Iran. That's what they're saying. When they were saying Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, they didn't really have weapons of mass destruction. That was the excuse that they gave to go and invade or put boots on the ground. But really what it was is he was investing in the African currency. I think people didn't like that. They're also saying right now, currently, Iran is funding other wars in the Middle East. Iran is part of the Persian Gulf.
And we now have dead Americans because of the money being going back to Iran, correct? All roads go back to Iran.
Well, not quite. All roads lead through Iran. Since ancient times, Persia has been a nexus of transport and trade. Slaves and spices, jewels and jade, gunpowder and gold. The Silk Road was a bridge between East and West. And Iran was the gateway, as then, so now. There are bandits in the 21st century too. But instead of swords, they wield sanctions. And that has been the catalyst for Iran's...
So they're saying that Iran was always trading and they had their own transportation means of trading. And the way we would fight them was through sanctions. That was the way in the past. So, let's see.
Renaissance for its morphing into a linchpin of the New World Order. And one of its pillars, the international north-south transport corridor, over 7,000 kilometers long. Ship, road, rail, the Indian Ocean linked into the Persian Gulf, the Caspian Sea, Russia, and onto Western Europe. Eurasia is embarking on a whole new voyage, and world trade is being remapped.
As soon as this project is implemented, then accordingly,
So it sounds to me more that the issue is not who has nuclear or whatever. It sounds like an import-export trade. That's why Trump was interested in the Panama Canal, because the Panama Canal, all the amount of cargoes that come and go, import-export. If you could cut off the Panama Canal, you can't get your cargo through, it's going to stop import-export. And I think that's why America likes to be allies with Egypt, because you have the Sinai Canal there too. That's positioned in case we have to put military ships there or import and export. So they're saying with Iran too that they're trying to close off the ports because Russia has been getting imports from the West, and they're trying to cut everything off so they can keep everything. They're just trying to cut off the whole G7 and have everyone within the Brics all buy from each other, if I understand it correctly. Let's go back.
we will have a route and the possibility of deliveries both in transit to Europe and deliveries from Russia to the Persian Gulf. In fact, this is a global change in transport and logistics routes, and this project may become an alternative to the Suez Canal.
40% shorter and 30% cheaper than that man-made waterway through which more than $1 trillion...
You know what she said? Let's back it up for a minute. This is what she said.
And 30% cheaper than that.
30% cheaper and 40% longer. So they can extend the transportation in the Middle East of goods importing at a 30% cheaper price. How are we going to compete with that?
This project may become an alternative to the Suez Canal.
40% shorter and 30% cheaper.
Shorter. So 40% shorter transportation will and 30% cheaper. So it's going to be more efficient and more cost effective
than that man-made waterway through which more than $1 trillion in goods transit annually. And the first stop, the port at Bandar Abbas. Then the train north to Bafq, then on to Tehran, and then anywhere. And you know what you won't spot on the way? A NATO patrol boat, a US aircraft carrier, an RAF spy plane. This route lies beyond Western.
Now, I think she mentioned something about we pulled out of NATO, right? So normally maybe NATO would oversee if you pay into the membership, who's going where, who's carrying what, who's paying this. You try to have it like fair markets. But being that we're not in NATO, I don't know how nobody's really overseeing this. I'm not really sure.
Control, geographical and financial.
When finished, the new link is expected to be completed in 2028.
2028, we in 5. That's 3 years. So in 3 years, there'll be a north-south transportation corridor which will stretch unbroken for more than 4,000 miles out of a reach of Western sanctions. So they're trying to just operate without us.
The resulting north-south transport corridor will stretch unbroken for more than 4,300 miles out of reach of Western sanctions.
It charts a course away from those waters dominated by the transatlantic alliance. It allows for settlement in national currencies. It strengthens the Russia.
Look at the triangle. Russia, India, and Iran.
Iran-India triangle. It further integrates the 5 Caspian states. It gives Moscow a greater foothold in both the Persian Gulf and the Indian Ocean. And it marks a new era. For so long, Russia looked west, traded west, bet on the west. And 24,000 sanctions later, you could say that the gamble didn't pay off. Except, wasn't it actually a clean sweep? Because
So Russia's like, I don't care about your sanctions anymore. We're going to control the Persian Gulf and the Indian Ocean. And they're going to get everything they need within that triangle. Russian, Iran, Indian triangle.
West has waned, and other stars have risen and will stay high precisely because of projects like these.
BRICS countries are a driving force of worldwide economic growth.
Okay, the BRICS country. We're talking about BRICS again. We were talking about that on our last live. Let's take a look at the BRICS guys. We're the US. So if you're here with the US, we're part of the G7. We're talking about here the BRICS. BRICS countries. The BRICS is an acronym for the 5 leading economies: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. The first 4 were initially grouped BRIC. In 2001, the Goldman Sachs economist Jim O'Neill, who coined the term, described fast-growing economies that would collectively dominate the global economy in 2050. South Africa was added in 2010. Total population is 3 billion. It has 26% of the world's land surface, 40% of global population. Brazil, Russia, India, China among the world's 10th largest countries by population area and the GDP. The 3 were widely considered to be current or emerging superpower. All 5 states are members of the G20 with a combined nominal GDP of $28 trillion. Here's the BRICS, guys. Here's the map right here. This is it, so you can have an idea what they're talking about. Let's take some notes. Okay, let's go back.
In the foreseeable future, BRICS alone will contribute the bulk of the global GDP increment. Our association is building upon relevant development platforms, including communication channels, technological and educational standards, financial systems, payment tools, and, of course, mechanisms for sustainable and long-term investment. As a result, the impact of external influence on the economic growth of Brics members will diminish steadily. Essentially, this is what economic sovereignty is all about. It amounts to a partnership between self-sufficient economies that expands their potential many times over and opens up new opportunities.
You see, diminishing external influence. The US neutering Iran isn't about nukes. It is about ensuring external influence. Install a friendly face in Tehran, a Shah 2.0, and you curb Russia geopolitically and economically. You fracture global south for interconnectivity, and you guarantee that no drop of oil, no grain of wheat, no container of cargo anywhere in the world can sail without fear. The US taking on Iran is about taking back control, the thing Washington is most desperate not to lose. And when you're desperate, you'll do.
America is desperate not to lose control of Iran. So do you guys still think this is about 60% enrichment of uranium?
Do almost anything.
Well, they can't have a nuclear
Did you mean military action, though, if they don't agree?
Oh, if necessary? Absolutely. Yeah.
Again, with these nuclear weapons, all we want is a deal. All Tehran has to do is renounce its world-ending ambitions, even though less than a month ago, US intel agencies unanimously agreed Tehran doesn't actually have any.
We continue to assess Iran as not building a nuclear weapon, and that Khamenei has not reauthorized the nuclear weapons program he suspended in 2003, though pressure has probably built on him to do so.
So why this obsession? And why is it actually that every time a Washington hawk talks Iran, they also talk black gold?
We have to constrain their cash. We have to constrain their oil. We have to go back to maximum pressure.
The Iranian oil trade and the regime's massive profits from it must be shut down immediately.
The United States is taking decisive action against anyone involved in facilitating Iran's oil sales at any stage of the supply chain.
Do you want to block the sale of Iranian oil to other nations?
Well, we have the right to do that, and that's what I did before.
We can, again, as I like to say, make Iran poor again. Then at the same time, they have our domestic producers push that up with the highest energy standards in the world.
Iran's making exponentially more money on selling that oil that we're allowing because we've walked away from maximum pressure.
Iran's total hydrocarbon reserves, so oil and gas, amount to 1.2 trillion barrels. But you can see 70%.
So my last live, we looked up the price of a barrel of oil was like $75 to see how, when we have bombed Iran, if it was going to affect. Everyone was saying, oh, price of gas is going up. But they're saying now, we're getting two conflicting stories. We get one story, they have nuclear and Israel has a right to defend itself, so we're going to get rid of it. We're going to back Israel. Then the other story is, we don't have that. That's not what we're doing. We're just trying to get off this sanctions and build the Russian triangle with Russia, India, and Iran so we can shorten our transportation, reduce it by 30%. So we don't care about your sanctions and we can operate independently. It's like an import-export financial World War III. That's what this is. The G7 versus the Brics and the GDP. If you follow the stocks and the money and the currency and the math and you make it make sense, it's not about nuclear weapons, because who are we to say there's 9 countries that have nuclear weapons, right? 9 of them. Who are we to say we're like, that's being a bully? Well, we have nuclear, but you can't have any. Oh, because you're our friend's enemy? Doesn't make any sense. I'm going to say WMD. These are the countries that have WMD: Russia, United States, China, France, UK, India, Pakistan, Israel, North Korea, Turkey, Netherlands, Belarus. I don't know where that is. I don't know where that is.
Percent of that is still untapped, and they are still discovering more. But they can't do it alone. Now, Tehran and Moscow have just ratified a 20-year energy alliance. 2 vast gas fields, Kish and North Pars, will be developed, as will 6 more oil fields. Pipelines will be built, LNG terminals too. With annual exports of 55 billion cubic meters on the cards, which Iran can then sell on to whomever it wants, it will no longer be an isolated pariah. It will be a middleman.
Remember, they said trillions of goods go through Iran every year.
Running point on the distribution of some of the most in-demand resources in this world. The ones that literally keep economies well-oiled. Iran will be a hub.
Iran has the most reliable, safest, and most economical transit or swap route for crude oil, natural gas, and petrochemical products to Afghanistan, Pakistan, and the Indian subcontinent in the east, and Turkey and Iraq in the west, and to the international markets of the Persian Gulf countries.
And are they going to be trading in the greenback? Well, I doubt it. Iran currently sells around 90% of its oil to China, and it gets paid in renminbi. 96% of Iranian-Russian trade happens in either the ruble or the rial. And around a fifth of global oil trade now.
So Iran is trading oil with China's currency? Is it stronger?
Happens without a single dollar bill swapping hands. Now, 2 giants are pooling resources and tapping the untapped. And you don't think that will shift the balance of power in the global market? You don't think the US is terrified about losing the authority to dictate whom energy is sold to and on what terms? We all saw the terror around Nord Stream 2. This is the same threat, but bigger. And it's bigger because of the precedent it could set. If they can do this with oil and gas, then why not wheat? Why not coal or minerals? It's got it all. And is finding yet more. A whole other platform for commodities trading is being sketched out right now. And Iran is a key architect of it. But it's not the only one. And here is where we get to what all this is actually about. And it ain't Iran. Remember what I showed you at the start, Mike Waltz? Well, I wasn't totally honest with you. I might have edited it a little because I wanted you to see the small picture before I showed you the big picture.
All roads go back to Iran, but really, it's Chinese money that is fueling Iran, that is fueling terrorism.
Why would... Okay, I'm lost. Let me think for a minute. So China is paying for Iran's weapons, and that Iran is being the terrorist. Is that their story they're telling us? Every 1 Chinese dollar will give you 5,807 Iranian. So the Chinese dollar is a lot stronger. I guess Iran's money went down. But they have oil. Let me go back. Let's finish.
You see, the Islamic Republic is a bit of a jewel for the People's Republic. And in part, that is because of location, location, location. To its north, the Caucasus. To its east, Central Asia. To its south and west, the Middle East. It sits at the crossroads to everywhere. So little wonder it's a part of the Belt and Road family. Iran lies along the southern corridor, which runs from Xinjiang through 7 Central Asian countries to the Persian Gulf. It is the safest and shortest land corridor for Chinese goods to reach Europe. And it opens the door for Beijing politically and economically. In fact, Iran is facilitating Biden's worst nightmare.
Let me state clearly that the United States is going to remain an active, engaged partner in the Middle East. We will not walk away and leave a vacuum to be filled by China, Russia, or Iran.
But this isn't just about enhancing Beijing's clout in the Middle East at a time when US credibility is at an all-time low. China's meteoric rise is thanks to what? Industrialization. Its industrialization is thanks to what? Energy. What kind of energy? Old school fossil fuel energy. Since the 90s, more than 50% of China's oil imports have come from the Arabian Peninsula. But there's a catch. The majority of oil-producing nations there are close allies of America, an increasingly hostile and belligerent America.
To the Chinese Communist Party, you either change or there will be consequences coming from the Trump administration and the Congress.
It's time for us to go on the offensive and abandon illusions about what kind of adversary we're faced. This is not a managed competition.
So it sounds to me, if you look here at this map, China is taking a shortcut going through Iran, I guess through by sea, by cargo, right here in the Arabian Sea, going up through Iran. Because think about it, if you're paying for fuel and you have to go all around through the Gulf, through Saudi Arabia and Mediterranean Sea, it's going to take you twice as long. So she's saying this route is 40% shorter and 30% of the cost. So China goes this way through the Persian Gulf to Iraq, is closer to get to Europe. That's the hustle, guys. I figured it out. This is not about just like Trump was cursing today. He was cursing. He was like, this is not about ceasefire. It's not about sending your kids to the military. It's not about they got nuclear. They don't have nuclear. They have a right. They have a not. They're not helping Israel. They've been bombing each other in the Middle East for over 80 years. It's about this global financial, economic World War III, because we've been the empire, America, big, great empire for the last 80 years, which is very short because most of the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire lost maybe 300 to 400 years. So now China and Russia are trying to come into position, get together, be a superpower. And Iran is important because it's stacked. It's right in the middle where China is trying to send exports to Europe. Ding! Ding, 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 ding. I think, guys. This ain't CNN. I'm reporting right from my little garage. Okay.
This is a competition we must win.
China has too much influence over the Panama Canal, and America's going to take it back.
I say, and
That's another thing. Trump was like, I'm taking over the Panama Canal. The same thing with the Panama Canal. Why are you so interested in the Panama Canal? Because how many cargoes a day, import, export, go through the Panama Canal? So he's like, if I block it off, then you can't trade and you got to be dependent on me. Let me see. How many... Guys, what do we do before ChatGPT? 14,000 ships in transit go through the Panama Canal annually, carrying 500 million tons of cargo. It represents roughly 6% of global maritime trade. Now remember, that's a check. Every time they go through, it's a check to change. If U.S. doesn't own it, that's why Trump's like, I'm taking it back. I'm taking back the Panama Canal.
I've learned and what I've seen in my long career is China understands only one thing: the stick. Give them the stick.
We don't want you buying our land. We don't want you taking the land and basically taking it off the market. And we don't want you doing it. And they're buying at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We don't want you buying. It's very easy to do. That's a very easy thing to do. But it's causing a lot of disruption, and that's what they want to do.
If we don't change course, we are going to live in a world where much of what matters to us on a daily basis, from our security to our health, will be dependent on whether the Chinese allow us to have it or not. That's an unacceptable outcome.
So wouldn't you look to a nation with the lowest risk, to a nation which shares some of your misgivings about Washington, to a nation which you already cooperate with in Brics and the SCO, one which is the second largest donor?
Okay, the BRICS. She's talking about the BRICS again. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Right? Oops.
Of gas reserves, the third largest donor of oil reserves, and the one which controls the Strait of Hormuz, the most important oil transit choke point in the world. The one who understands that your energy security is your economic survival. I think you would. China and Iran are not necessarily allies, but they are strategic partners. Theirs is a perfect marriage of geopolitical imperative and economic necessity. So, no, long story short, it's not about Iran. And next time Lindsey Graham comes out saying something like this:
hit Iran. They have oil fields out in the open. They have the Revolutionary Guard headquarters you can see from space. Blow it off the map.
Understand that what he's actually saying is take China out. Cut off its oil, cut off its markets, cut off its partners, its logistics, current supplies, long-term investments, cut it all off. Lay siege to the nation in our rear-view mirror and do everything to make sure it never overtakes us. Because that's what this is, fundamentally. Nothing more than a refusal to accept that someone is coming for your crown. And we've been here before. In the late 60s, the US was in trouble. Inflation was high, unemployment was higher. And for the first time since 1893, it was running trade deficits. So what did it do? Tariffs. 10% tariffs.
This import tax is
And that's where we're at now, right? Trump just imposed tariffs on China and a whole bunch of other people. And this is what same thing Richard Nixon did.
temporary action. It isn't directed against any other country. It's an action to make certain that American products will not be at a disadvantage because of unfair exchange rates. When the unfair treatment is ended, the import tax will end as well.
Except it was against another country, 2 countries to be exact, West Germany and Japan. Why? Because they dared recover from the war and even become competitors in textiles and electronics, iron and steel. Suddenly, the US was losing market share. So it did what it does best.
My view is that the foreigners are out to screw us, and therefore it's our job to screw them first.
A decade later, deja vu. Japan was booming, the second largest economy in the world. And again, alarm bells rang on the Hill.
Let's take a look at this graph real quick. The G7 versus the BRICS. In terms of economic power measured by purchasing power, the BRICS countries have surpassed the G7. However, the G7 still holds lead in terms of nominal GDP and wealth per capita. The BRICS bloc is gaining influence due to its larger population, fastest economic growth rates that control over key resources.
Doomsday predictions of an economic Pearl Harbor. And all the usual accusations followed. Unfair trade practices, stealing US intellectual property, Sound familiar? In fact, here's a blast from the past.
The fact is that the world is ripping off this country. Germany is ripping us off big league. Saudi Arabia is ripping us off big league. France, I mean, they're the worst team player I've ever seen in my life. If you look at what's happened, Japan for years, I mean, we're like a whipping post for Japan. I think that you have to be treated fairly by other countries. If other countries aren't going to treat you fairly, Larry, I think that those countries should suffer the consequences.
Which is then what happened. Japan had a cap on how many cars it could ship stateside. A tariff was put on its motorcycles to protect Harley Davidson. It caved and devalued the dollar to the Japanese yen, an absolute boon for the US. But that still wasn't enough. Reagan then put 100% tariffs on hundreds of millions of dollars worth of goods. And what happened? Well, boom to bust. The yen increased in value, so Japanese products became expensive, people stopped buying them, GDP barely grew. The lost decade, they called it, and the effects are still felt today. You see, for all its claims of being fans of fair trade, for America, it is only fair if it is winning. And if there's even a whiff of a loss, it bullies, because it can, every single time. And this time is no different. Tariffs and trade wars, and finally, back to where we started, taking out Iran. It is all part of the plot to stay on top. And there's no...
Take out Iran to stay on top. It is. I didn't hear her say anything about WMD, anything like that. It was all about the positioning of where they are, and they've been popular with importing and exporting forever. And China is going to use them to shorten their transportation 30% cheaper to get goods to Europe.
Oh, much they won't do to stay on top.
You know, one of the interesting ideas that's floated out there for deterrence is just making it very clear to the Chinese that if you invade Taiwan, we're going to blow up TSMC.
World economy, be damned. In the meantime, they'll tell you that they have to blow up Iran to keep you safe. World peace, be damned. They'll tell you that they really don't want to, of course, that it was never part of the plan. But Iran left them no choice. Just remember, there is always a choice, just as there is always a plan.
This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
Mm-hmm. Listening to this album.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. 5 list of countries in the Middle East they plan to take out. Libya, Iraq, Iran, Syria, by any means necessary. And they're going to tell you it's for peace in the Middle East, right? That's what they're going to tell you. And what about NATO, guys? Are we in NATO? What did 47 do? He makes me so good. We're in NATO, we're out NATO. Everyone should pay their fair share. We're paying more than other people. He's supposed to have a summit to go. He's going. Are we in it? Are we not in it? I just can't understand, because everything he says he's going to do, he does the opposite. We're not going to go to war. We're going to war. I'm not going to attack. We're going to attack. I'm not going to deport immigrants. We're deporting immigrants. I didn't bomb WMD. We found MDZ with mission. WMD, mission accomplished. It wasn't accomplished. It's only been 6 months. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, share. I can't tell you what I'm going to come back and talk about. I got ADD. I'm going to talk about whatever I feel like. It might be hip hop. It might be rap. It might be Diddy. It may be 47. It may be nothing. It may be like, let's just make some apple pie. How about that? But I love you guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you do want to donate to the channel, at the top of the channel, I always put my Cash App